Good morning, everyone. It's one of those Fridays. Yesterday, uh, we met, or at least the members and friends of 418 Oasis OTO here in Sacramento, met up at the McKinley Park Rose Garden. Once a month, we meet there just to socialize and catch up on things. It's nothing formal. But yesterday we tried a little experiment that I talked about in yesterday's YouTube video here. And it was an invocation experiment, an experiment of invoking a Sylph and the air spirit. And there in that beautiful, fragrant rose garden, it should have been just crawling with sylphs who've gotten used to the traffic. Anyway, I made up some handouts. Constance even made a little device here. This is the Enochian tablet, elemental tablet of air, or at least it's assigned to air by the modern magicians. Okay, and up in the corner there is the yellow section of this elemental tablet is a yellow one. And that yellow one is the air subangle of the air tablet. The green is the earth, and the subangle, and the red is the fire subangle, and the blue is the water subangle. But the pure one, air of air, is that subangle there, and whose main character there is Rizla. Or if you choose, you can use the eye of Ego, the divine name, and Rizila. That's the cherub's name. That would be like the chief sylph. Okay. And in the Enochian system, that seal right there is the seal associated with that tablet, which has been attributed to air. And here's the Hindu tattva symbol, a blue circle for air, and a black egg-shaped thing in the center for spirit. So that's the spirit of air. Now, air of air, that subangle, see, that's a close-up of the subangle there in the Prince of Swords. That would be a blue circle within a blue circle, air of air. And those are Enochian tablets and things like that. And there you see Rizla right up there on top. And you see the two divine names written in the cross area there, the one that's sort of white, and that's Ego and Ardza, or Ardza, if you choose to use the center thing. So Ego and Arzda calls forth Rizla, the chief cherub of air, and Rizla then rules those four, I guess we could call them servitor angels underneath the arms of the cross. So, why am I showing you all of this? Because yesterday we did a little invocation, or everyone individually did a little invocation, just sort of an informal thing. We found a certain little section in the rose garden, a little private section. Everybody broke up and found their own little section. Took a picture and did a little invocation ceremony, and then turned on a tape recorder that's on their phone just for 30 seconds, just to record the ambient background noises, and if there's anything in particular in that, we could listen for later. And then after the invocation, take another picture of the exact same area, only take the picture through this little filter. Just a homemade filter Constance threw together. It's just enough to sort of distort the image. So there's one picture before the invocation, one picture after the invocation, plus the soundtrack. And you can go home and then play with all of that. Sort of an experiment. Here was the handout. It included the prayer, Eliphas Levy's prayer to the Sylphs. Now, I recited it in front of everybody as a group, but if they chose, when they did their own little private invocation, they also recited it in their little secluded area. There's the invoking pentagram of spirit active, and the divine name as you make that pentagram is Ehia, traditionally, and there's the sign of the portal sign. So you draw that active, invoking active pentagram, and then you open up that area. Then you draw the invoking air pentagram, and you make and say Yehovah, and then you make the sign of Shu. Okay. Well, on the back for the hardcore folks, I put the Enochian stuff too. Okay. And so I showed you all this yesterday. Frankly, I really like the Kabbalistic, this hierarchy. Shaddai Elkai, Raphael, Ariel, Hassan, Paralda. And I made up I put it to music to that little section of Rimsky-Korsakov's Scheherazade that would be Shaddai Elkai, Raphael, Ariel, Kasana Paralda. Shaddai Elkai, Raphael, Ariel, Kasana Paralda. And that becomes an airworm in your mantra head. And you get yourself excited. Anyway. So, hang on. If you got screenshots, there's the Sylph filter. Okay, do the screenshot and see all the Sylphs for your Sylph filter. Isn't that sweet? Constance did that for everybody. Anyway, that's the DuQuette's mastery of 1,001 preschool skills. Anyway, Jim Brakowski and I wrote a novel. Actually, we wrote a screenplay, and then we turned it into a novel so we could turn it into a screenplay, and it's a long story. But anyway, I made up a fanciful invocation of the Sylphs because Crowley, when he first got married to Rose Kelly, and they went on an extended honeymoon all over the place, and they spent a night in the king's chamber. Okay. Now, I don't know if this took place in the king's chamber or someplace else, but they did spend a night in the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid. But what got this whole Book of the Law, Aeon of Horus, advent of the New Age and Thelema and all of that, it all started with Rose on her honeymoon with Crowley asking him to prove his magic by showing her the Sylphs. And I sort of fancifully recreated that in one of the scenes from this book. And if you would, I know a couple of years ago I probably read it to you, but I'm going to do it again because all of these characters, Shaddai, Kai, Raphael, Ariel, Kasana, Para. Well, what is it? Shaddai, El Kai, Raphael, Ariel, Kasan, Paralda. Okay. This is on their honeymoon. Exterior shot. It's described like a screenplay. Exterior night shot of the Giza Pyramid complex. The Sphinx with the Great Pyramid in the background. Then close-up Great Pyramid itself. Two Arab guides relax before a campfire near the Great Pyramid and chat in Arabic with subtitles. Two camels rest nearby. One camel shakes its head slightly, and we hear the same tinkling bells we heard at the opening scene when Crowley was knocked unconscious on the glacier. Okay, long story. The Arabs laugh. They continue to speak in Arabic with subtitles. One says to the other, he calls himself Prince Kao Khan, the great beast, and the woman is his wife, Princess Urada, the rose. They laugh. Crazy English. He says they will spend the night inside. He stretches out as if to sleep. His partner adds, they will come out any moment now. And then they both laugh. Interior shot of the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid. Rose, looking a little uneasy, paces the perimeter of the small chamber. She holds a small candle. Crowley is lying in the sarcophagus. We do not see him at first. Rose speaks. The echo is distractingly loud. She quiets her voice a bit. Really, darling, must we stay here all night? It's not very romantic. Crowley's voice rises from the sarcophagus. What could possibly be more romantic? How many of the Kelly women can say they honeymooned in the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid? Come on, it's only a few hours before dawn. I want to dream here. Can't we simply go back to the hotel and dream there? Still unseen inside the sarcophagus, Crowley teases Rose. Don't tell me my sweet Rose is a hothouse flower. This is a very special place, you know. Magicians say this pyramid is the navel of the universe. Egyptian priests used to initiate candidates in this chamber. They sealed them for days in this very sarcophagus. When they finally raised the lid, the poor bastard inside was either dead or mad as a hatter or what? Rose asked with a tinge of fear in her voice. Crowley quickly sits up and finds himself face to face with Rose, who is now standing very near the sarcophagus. Crowley is wearing a loose and poorly wrapped turban. Or he emerged more than human. Rose is actually startled and jumps a bit, nearly dropping the candle. She bonks him on the forehead with the palm of her hand, loosening the turban even more. More than human? Don't be absurd. Not absurd at all, he attempts to straighten his turban. No one is truly human unless he's striving to be more than human. Crowley bounds out of the sarcophagus. He takes the candle from Rose and places it on the edge of the sarcophagus. His turban completely unravels and falls down over his face and shoulders. He removes it and clumsily wraps it around her neck like a scarf. He then removes his jacket and tenderly puts it over her shoulders. They kiss. Rose turns around to allow her husband to embrace her from behind. She smiles a somewhat irritated smile, but cuddles cozily in his arms. She pouts. You and your magic. You say you're through with it, but that's all you talk about. Why don't you wave your wand and make time move a little faster so we can leave this dreadful place? Crowley smiles and grinds his body provocatively against her backside. I am waving my wand. He kisses her neck. She closes her eyes with pleasure. He then bites her on the neck. Ouch! Damn you and your serpent kisses. Still enclosed in his arms, she turns around to face him. No, really, if you're a magician, do something magical for me. Entertain me. Entertain your bride with your magic. Show me those fairies you told me about. Show me those fairies that live in the air. Sylphs. They're called sylphs. They're not fairies, and they don't live in the air. You and I live in the air. The sylphs are the spirits of the air itself. They're elementals. Undines are water elementals. Salamanders are... She closes his mouth with a kiss. You can't, can you? Such things don't exist at all. He becomes irritated. He releases her, turns and steps toward the chamber entrance, where his walking stick and 2 knapsacks can be seen. They are as real as the air we breathe. He picks up his walking stick and one of the knapsacks as if preparing to leave. I don't believe in magic, Rose tells him. I don't believe in magic either, Crowley says sadly. What do you believe in? She says. He turns to face Rose and glances for a moment at the tiny candle on the edge of the sarcophagus. He resolutely strikes the palm of his hand with his stick. He approaches Rose, but stops about 6 feet away from her. Myself. He drops the knapsack. I am a magician. Everything I do is magic. With his walking stick, he knocks the candle into the sarcophagus, plunging the chamber into absolute darkness. Please, darling, I was only... Don't move. In the stillness, we hear the faint tinkling of the camel bells again. It's a long story. I am... He almost shouts the word. A dim blue light suddenly illuminates his forehead. We see that he's holding his walking stick vertically in his right hand. He's using it as a magic wand. The hand itself is pressed against his forehead. Keeping the wand vertical, he draws his hand down to the groin level. The light follows, dimly illuminating his body with a vertical line. The kingdom... Still keeping the wand erect, he touches his right shoulder. The light follows as before. And power... He touches his left shoulder. The light follows as before. And mercy... He now interlaces the fingers of both hands around the wand and presses it firmly against his breast. The light concentrates there. It grows bright for a moment, then slowly fades. The light does not go out completely, but turns blood red and undulates like a beating heart. For a moment, all is silent. Crowley draws his breath in with a huge inhalation. He then begins to speak, slowly at first, with a reverent whisper. His eyes are closed as if he were in prayer. He proceeds, or as he proceeds, his words become louder and his delivery faster and more intense. Spirit of life, before whom the life of all beings is but a vapor which passes away. He takes another deep breath. Thou who mounts upon the clouds and who walks upon the wings of the wind, thou who breathes forth and endless space is peopled, thou who draws in thy breath and all that comes from thee returns unto thee, be thou eternally blessed. After a moment of complete silence, he thrusts the wand forward and aims it above and to the side of Rose's left shoulder. He then sweeps it violently to his right until the point of the wand is aimed just over her right shoulder. As he does so, it creates a brilliant line of blue light that flames in space between him and Rose. He then continues moving the wand until he has created a huge pentagram star that flames in suspension between them. Rose is stunned, speechless. He now draws both hands to the side of his head, closes his eyes, and takes a deep breath. He thrusts his arms and body forward in the sign of the Emperor and violently pushes the blazing star away. As he does so, he bellows, "Ex harp." The star blasts violently through Rose like a mighty wind. She's knocked down on her behind and thrown back several feet in this most unladylike position. She remains seated. The star now blazes in place upon the eastern wall of the chamber. Without lowering the wand, Crowley quickly turns to his right and repeats the procedure to create 3 more stars in the south, west, and north walls of the chamber. Only when he's returned the tip of the wand to the east where he started does he lower his arm. The king's chamber is now filled with flaming blue light from the 4 pentagrams on the walls. Crowley stands in the center of the room. Rose is still seated on the floor in front of him. He raises both arms to make the sign of the Egyptian god Shu, the god of the air. O Shaddai El Kai, I praise thee, I bless thee in the changing empire of light, reflections, and images. As he speaks, the walls of the chamber becomes completely obscured by flaming stars. Crowley and Rose seem to be the infinite center of a brilliant sunlit blue sky. Raphael, let the ray of thine intelligence and love penetrate me, and the shadow shall be body, and spirit of air shall be soul, and dreams shall be thought. The flaming stars now begin to generate white wisps of tiny comma-shaped clouds composed of the same liquid light. The tiny clouds spin rapidly, and their tails elongating and thrown out into all directions. Crowley is now shouting, Ariel, by the rushing power of Hassan, I hold the bridles of the winged steeds of dawn. I direct the course of the evening breeze. Paralda, Paralda, Paralda. As he repeats the word Paralda, the air fills with what at first appears to be swirling snowflakes, formed from the wisps of the comma clouds. But as he reaches the climax of the conjuration, they become thousands of winged sylphs, darting to and fro at incredible speed. Several hover like hummingbirds directly in front of Rose's nose, and we get a good look at one. It's an androgynous, human-like creature of ethereal beauty. It is entirely transparent, but every feature of its body, and gossamer gown is outlined in brilliant white-blue lines that themselves radiate wisps of fine hair like clouds. Everything about the tiny creature is in motion. Its wings beat so fast they are nearly invisible. Its long hair flows wildly in streams of liquid air. Rose opens her mouth and gasps in stunned wonder. As she does so, she accidentally inhales one of the sylphs into her mouth and lungs. She immediately lets out a pinched squeak of panic. The squeak expels the creature, who tumbles from her mouth in a swirl of air. It hovers for a moment before darting away. She faints. The room is a riot of sylphs who crowd every inch of space in the king's chamber. Behind and above Crowley, we now get a brief glimpse of his holy guardian angel, who, for a moment, looks rather like a gigantic sylph who spreads its wings protectively over Crowley's body. Crowley is oblivious to the fact that Rose has fainted. He is now screaming the conjuration ecstatically at the top of his lungs. Paralda, Paralda, O Spirit of spirits, O eternal soul of souls, O breath of life, O mouth which breathes forth and withdraws the life of all beings. Like millions of fluttering bats of light, some of the sylphs start to escape through the main entrance of the chamber. Others crowd toward the two small air shafts opening on the north-south walls of the chamber. The camera rapidly follows one sylph as it speeds up along the long, narrow shaft that leads out of the pyramid into the desert night. The two Arab guides are awakened by their camels, who have risen in a panic at the sight of an intense beam of light created by millions of escaping sylphs radiating into the pre-dawn light. The light rays generate gusts of wind. The Arabs try to calm the camels as they too stare in awe. Okay, that's from the book, Aleister Crowley, Revolt of the Magicians. Yes, it's available on Amazon, and I think you'd enjoy it. And it's sort of the foundation of the film project we're working on. You might enjoy it. Anyway, can you see Sylph in my glasses there? Anyway, we'll do something else tomorrow. Continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.